Hello and welcome to a new episode of That Fertile Feeling, the podcast. My name is Françoise, and today's episode is all about how to pick yourself up when your fertility journey has gotten you down. Um, it's a topic that I know a thing or two about. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that my own fertility journey lasted over a decade. It actually took me 10 years to get pregnant with our first living son, so obviously it was a very long time. And luckily, the intensity of the journey really varied along the way. So there were, some really, really low points. I'm thinking of the loss of our first pregnancy back in 2016. But there were also years where we were just trying. There were years where I was like in full blown fixing my fertility mode. So I was really focused on what I was eating, on my lifestyle. There was a year where we gave up trying to get pregnant altogether because I couldn't take it anymore. There was a year where we couldn't even try to get pregnant because my thyroid hormones were so messed up. So I was basically infertile at the point. So there were many, many different stages, many different ways in which I experienced that fertility journey, and also varying degrees of intensity. I wouldn't have lasted if the entire journey had been as intense as it was at certain points. And I think that's also an important reason why I want to record this episode, is to let you know that you are not alone in this, that it won't always feel like you're feeling right now, and that it's important to develop strategies that help you cope. Because, if you're going all in and you're doing everything that you can and you're just putting a lot of stress on your system, it's not sustainable in the long term. And that's really the word that comes to mind: sustainability. You want to do this in a way that's sustainable. And I say this now with a little bit of benefit, of hindsight, but if you don't take care of yourself along the way, you might end up thinking, what happened? What did I do all those years? How did I lose myself so much? Maybe your marriage is in shambles because you just couldn't take the pressure. Or maybe you do get pregnant and you realize that you're so drained from your fertility journey. I mean, postnatal depression for women who've experienced fertility challenges is a real thing. And I think it's because of this reason. You go in with like a nervous system that's so overstretched already that you don't have that resiliency to also deal with the transition to motherhood. And I'm not saying that to make you feel ashamed, right? Or to make you feel bad. I'm saying that because I have that experience, that there are many things that you can do to make your fertility journey a bit softer, a bit lighter, a bit more sustainable. And that, the moment I conceived through IVF was actually, so of course, once I conceived, I was happy, but even in the run up with my appointments, I was doing okay. I wasn't super stressed, super anxious. I was actually enjoying life, and that's what I want for you as well. Um, I do think that will set you up for fertility, because we've talked about the nervous system before on the podcast, the importance of being balanced yourself. But as I mentioned, it will also set you up for motherhood and life more generally. These are just super important skills. It's a skill set really that you get to develop here on that fertility journey. And that's really been the key takeaway from my own fertility journey as well. It has taught me how to develop a much healthier relationship with my body, with my life, and I've really made it my mission now to pass that along. So today I'll share with you the top 3 strategies that I used to pick myself up when, the journey felt really hard. And one thing I want to mention straight away is that these are not necessarily quick fixes. This is about creating mental habits. They will look like tiny, tiny things, but that's the beauty of them, because tiny things are easy to integrate in your routine. And then over time, you will see that they will radically transform not only your journey, but really your entire relationship with fertility, with life. And one thing I wanted to add, I'm just dropping in here from my editing table, is that so this is an episode that's not about quick fixes. It's about developing these sort of long-term healthy mental habits that will help you pick yourself up on your fertility journey. Now, if you're spiraling, this isn't going to work. And I actually created a whole episode about what you can do when you're spiraling. So when you notice that you are really stuck in these negative thought patterns, you're spiraling, you don't know how to get back to yourself again, Then go to episode 33. It's an episode that I recorded while I was spiraling myself. So I recorded sort of multiple parts of that episode throughout the week to really take you through the process of how I pick myself up when I'm spiraling. So episode 33, if you're spiraling, if you're just more interested in developing that overall mindset that is conducive to sort of your mental health and fertility, then today's episode is the episode for you. So when I talk about picking yourself up when you're down, I do find it really important to acknowledge that this is just, or it can be, a really hard journey. And I don't want to fall in the pitfall of toxic positivity, ignoring or overriding the tough parts of life. That just doesn't help. Sometimes we get the impression that life should always be good, that we're doing something wrong when life is hard, that we should just ignore the hard stuff. But the only thing that does is that it leaves it all to fester in your subconscious mind. So it still influences you, even though you're ignoring it. And because you're not actively working with it, it just remains there in your system. And there can be so much hard stuff. It can be tough to wake up and immediately think about where you are in your cycle, to feel that glimmer of hope at the start of your cycle, and then the anxiety of the 2 week wait, and then the devastation of a negative test, your period arriving. There's so much waiting, especially when you're in treatment, but also just a 2 week wait, to feel disconnected from your body, to be symptom checking all the time, second guessing everything that you do. Then there's that emotional exhaustion, isolation, and jealousy, not wanting to be with women or around women who are pregnant. The fear of never getting pregnant, that's a really big one. I think all of us know that one. There can be grief of loss, or maybe grief of potentially needing medical help to conceive. So you're facing some of the most difficult things in life. And what's especially, in our society, what's really hard is that there's this overwhelming feeling that you're not in control and that you don't know what you can do to make a difference. So these feelings are not only common, but they're understandable given that you are under an immense amount of pressure. Um, and I want you to really give yourself some grace and acknowledge that you are doing hard emotional labor every day. This is not easy. This is not an easy journey. And, given all this heavy emotional stuff, it really continues to baffle me how little support there is for women on a fertility journey. This is hardcore stuff. And if your clinic is anything like mine, I mean, there was a psychologist on staff, but really focusing on the mental support, on the mindset work, wasn't part of my protocol or my treatment at all. So yeah, for me, in an ideal world, there would be like a much larger support network in fertility treatment, or just, in life, to help you navigate it all. And that's why I'm happy that you found the podcast also, because I do feel that I learned some things on my fertility journey that I can share with you to make your journey a bit lighter, things that really got me through the hard stuff. And a really important thing to start with is, when it comes to mental resilience, is to become more aware of the present moment. You might know that I'm a meditation teacher, so of course I'm saying this: mindfulness, being in the moment. One of the things I actually started doing during my fertility journey is that I trained to become a meditation teacher, because I felt like I needed those tools to pick myself up. And it has brought me so much. And I'm not saying that because you need to become a meditation teacher. I just want to share with you some of the key principles that you can apply from those meditation practices. All meditation is basically about focusing on what's going on in this moment. So not thinking about the future, not thinking about whether you will ever get pregnant or not. It's about what's going on in this moment. And once you start bringing your attention back to the present moment, that's how you can really start transforming your entire experience of life. And you can do that in so many different ways. An important thing that I use meditation for also with my clients is that we really focus on the hard stuff that's going on, all of the things I just talked about, right? I won't go into that into detail just now, because I've created a number of episodes about this. Basically, whenever you're dealing with loss, with anything hard, what you do is you create space to sit with whatever is bothering you, and you try to look at it with an open mind without judgment. So, really experiencing what it is that you feel in your body, because you're able to process those heavy emotions once you start looking at them. And that means that they won't weigh on you all the time. So, meditation, one thing meditation does is that it helps you identify and deal with triggers. But for the purpose of, picking yourself up, meditation can also help you become more aware of glimmers. Have you ever heard of that term, glimmers? So, glimmers are small moments of joy or peace that arise from appreciating simple things. So, they are things that you can find when you take a moment to slow down and see or feel if there's anything around you that you enjoy. And it can be as simple as just drinking a cup of tea and feeling that it's really nice to have that warm liquid trickling down your throat. And obviously, just noticing things that you enjoy makes you feel better, even if it's just a tiny bit. But there's also a larger principle behind this, that whatever you water will grow. So by noticing tiny things that you enjoy, by starting, to pay attention to them, this is a practice that will grow over time, because you see like, oh, this feels good. You become more aware that there are things around you that make you feel good. So you become more attuned to what you enjoy, more inquisitive. You start looking for the glimmers. And these glimmers are so important. There's also a bit of a scientific explanation here, because all of those hard things that we talked about before, all of the stress of the fertility journey, that, it puts a lot of stress on your system. So in terms of the nervous system, what all of these negative thoughts, the doubts, the fears, the pain do is they activate your sympathetic nervous system. So that's your fight or flight response. So what's happening is you're not feeling safe, and you feel like there's something you need to do. You need to fight the situation, like you need to flee from the situation. And those are, in the long run, not very productive strategies, especially when it's something like fertility, a situation that you can't control. So glimmers, they actually activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So that is the part of the nervous system that helps you calm down and relax. Now, interestingly enough, this is also the state that you want to achieve because it's really conducive to fertility as well. So feeling that sense of deep calm, it supports your hormonal balance, your immune function. There's, really good reasons why you want to be in that parasympathetic state a lot, especially when you're trying to conceive. Um, so glimmers help you get there. Glimmers help you switch off that fight or flight response, and just sort of come home in your body, come home in the present moment, and feel that there are things that you can still enjoy. And there are a number of ways in which you can do that. I'll give you two for now. Number one, this is one I love so much. Before you go to bed, try to remember three things that you enjoyed during the day. And if it was a really, really bad day, just, because I've also had days where I went to bed and I was thinking like, okay, what was good about today? Okay, so if you can't think about anything, not even a nice meal, not even like a hug from your partner, if there really wasn't anything, just aim for three things that you felt neutral about during the day. It's like, okay, well, at least I wasn't crappy, feeling super crappy at that moment. I was just feeling neutral, right? Normally, you will find three nice things, and can be very, very tiny things, like just, oh, it was nice to cuddle with my cat, for example. Or like I said, I enjoyed that food that I had, or oh, I got to sit in the sun for a moment and just feel the sun on my skin. Once you start focusing on these things before you go to sleep, what also happens is that you switch off your thinking mind, right? Or the worrying mind, I should say. It's by focusing on those things that make you feel good. Automatically, you cannot think about the things that, you feel bad about. And that's then what you take into your night with you. So you automatically relax when you think of good things, and you take that relaxation with you into your sleep, which usually also improves the quality of your sleep. And one thing that I've noticed, and I'm sure you'll notice that as well, is that once you start doing this, throughout the day, you become more attuned to these glimmers as well. Because you realize, okay, when I go to bed tonight, I want to be able to mention three things that I enjoyed. So throughout the day, you start looking around you, or just feeling like, is there something now that I am enjoying? So even though you only do this for 5 minutes at night, it starts to change how you interact with your day. So this is a really easy strategy and one I really love. I still practice this every day right now. Another thing you can do if you find that difficult to take that moment before you fall asleep is to set your alarm on your phone a couple of times throughout your day. So maybe 3 times, maybe 5 times. There's two things that you can do then. Either you can check in and see if there's something that you're enjoying right now. So that's to become a bit more aware of how you're doing. But you can also just look around the room, let your eyes wander and see where they want to rest. Because usually, where your eyes want to rest is a place or a thing that you enjoy. Usually, it's like a plant or a picture of a loved one. So you let your eyes wander, you see where they land, and then you go within and you feel what that does in your body. And again, that gives you a different sense of control again. It gives you a sense of, even though things are really, really hard, there's always something here that can make me feel better. And I know, like, for both of these strategies, they sound like really tiny things to do. But new habits do start with these tiny changes. These are things that you can actually commit to. It's like 5 minutes before you go to bed, setting an alarm on your phone 3 times a day. And if you do that for like 60 days, that's a new pattern. And from that new pattern, you will grow an entirely new way of being. These things are so transformational precisely because they work at a really deep nervous system level. So, becoming aware of those glimmers, what it does is it elevates your baseline feeling of joy. But there are also moments where, you're actually triggered or you're just stuck in a really negative thought. And I already mentioned this, but one that I think all of you may recognize is that feeling that you will never get pregnant, that you will be that one person who it never happens for. Even though there's no evidence out there to support it, you have that feeling like, of course, it will be me. This is something I actually see a lot in type A personalities because I think that's directly linked to the fact that you're not in control. So it's so black and white that if it's something that you can't control, then it will go wrong, right? There's a bit of a personality thing there. Um, Now, one thing that you can do with beliefs like this one, like that fear that you will never get pregnant, is you can actively start questioning them. And maybe you're familiar with Byron Katie's work. It's actually called The Work. So she has a very simple method to help you start questioning these beliefs. In my training, they were also called limiting beliefs or desperation stories. That sounds a bit harsh maybe, but those are the stories or the beliefs that you have that just make you feel really, really crappy. And then with Byron Katie's work, with her three, it's actually 4 questions, but I've condensed them into three just for ease. What you can do is start to shift those stories that you tell yourself. So let's take that one, that fear that you might never get pregnant, as an example. So a first question she would ask you is this true? And do you know for a fact that this is absolutely true? So, okay, if I say, I'm afraid that I will never get pregnant, you ask me if it's true, I say, yes, I'm afraid. So it's true. But do I know for a fact that this is absolutely true? I might say, well, I'm 41, almost 42. Like, I haven't had the best experience so far, but I'm not sterile, right? Sterility means that it's physically impossible for you to have children. Well, that's not a fact. So no, I don't know that it's actually absolutely true that I will never get pregnant. That sounds like a very complicated sentence. But it's not true. I cannot say for sure that I will never get pregnant. And by the way, like, even if you're sterile, so if you no longer have your ovaries, your tubes, your womb, that would be like a real case of sterility, right? You might still question the statement that you will never become a mother, right? Because are there maybe other ways to become a mother? So I think for anyone, this question, do I know for certain that I will never become a mother? The answer is no, you don't know for certain. But you stay with that belief for the second question. The second question is, how do you react when you believe that thought? So you go back to that fear. I might never get pregnant. I might never become a mother. And you feel what that does in your body. You'll probably feel sad, anxious, low. It's also interesting to see what happens in your body itself. So you will probably feel your body start to tense up. So you see that direct link between mind and body there as well when you observe how that belief makes you feel. Then a third question you can ask yourself is, who would you be without the thought? And what you do here is you investigate what an alternative mindset might feel like. So what really helps is if you turn the belief around. So if you're thinking, I will never get pregnant, turn it around. I might get pregnant. Let's aim for a low bar. I might get pregnant. I'm not certain. I might get pregnant. See how that feels in your body, what that does to your mood. And again, what will happen is that you see that mind body connection at work. Because once you start thinking that alternative statement, I might get pregnant, you will feel your body relax. You will feel your mood lifting. It's like an instant change. If you don't experience an instant change, keep looking for, keep turning that belief around. Sometimes you have to play a little bit until you find like a new belief that works for you. What this does, what it does is that it helps you realize you have an option. So you realize that mindset to a degree is a choice. You have a choice about the mindset you want to adopt. There's one that makes you feel crappy, and there's one that makes you feel really open and relaxed, and you get to choose. And then one additional thing that I like to do when I see myself remaining stuck in that negative mindset, sometimes it's just, you're just stuck. You're like, yeah, whatever, I'll never get pregnant. Then I ask myself, what does it bring me to keep believing this? Because if your mind keeps going to that same place over and over again, apparently it feels like there's something useful there. It's getting something out of that negative belief. Usually it's something that makes your mind feel safe. And I keep coming back to that a lot on this episode, the fact that we're not in control. For fertility, there's the fear of disappointment. I think that often keeps us stuck in that negative mindset. You're not in control. You don't know if it will ever happen. And you're so afraid that you will be disappointed if you allow yourself to hope, or that you will feel foolish later on, or just really hurt. So you might actually feel like you're protecting yourself by not allowing yourself to have hope. And then you can do the work again. You can continue doing the exercise and you can question, is it true that I'm protecting myself by not having hope? Or you just repeat that statement, I'm protecting myself by not having hope. Do I know that that is true? And you're thinking, well, maybe it's not true because actually it makes me feel pretty crappy, right? Or you see what it does in your body and you feel like, oh, but I feel, even though I think I'm protecting myself, this belief actually makes me feel really tense. So maybe it's not working for me. I'm not protecting myself by not having hope. Having hope would be a better way of protecting myself. Just play around. There's no super correct way to do it. It's about playing around and seeing what belief feels true and makes me feel good and makes my body feel good. Something you can just play around with. I do want to mention though that sometimes I feel that this is where toxic positivity can come in. So if you are just really stuck and you notice that you're using this technique, but you only end up arguing with your thoughts and trying to make yourself differently than you are, then try something else instead. And I have a third strategy that you can turn towards. Now, what I see happen often is, and this has been my own experience as well, is you want to have a baby, you don't know how to get there, and you don't know if it will ever happen for you. So that's a really scary feeling. And our go-to response is then often to start doing lots of things because that gives us a sense of control again. Now, what that looks like in practice, especially if you've been on the fertility journey for a while, is that you start seeing your body as something that is dysfunctional and that needs to be fixed. So you start eating the right foods, taking the right supplements, doing all the right things. And you may probably notice that that is also quite stressful, right? There's a lot that you need to be on top of. and there's not a lot of space left for anything else. And really, again, there's no judgment here. I've been there myself. I just want to point out that this is an approach to fertility that is grounded in fear and in the assumption that your mind knows what it needs to do to get pregnant. It's the mind that is grasping for control. But here's the kicker: your mind actually doesn't know how to get pregnant. It's your body that knows. So if you're not getting pregnant, and I've recorded numerous episodes about this as well, it means that your body is out of balance. And your body needs support. It needs your support to find its way back into balance. It needs you to start listening rather than looking to outside sources of information and advice. And this has really been the biggest lesson on my own fertility journey. You can't control whether you get pregnant or not, but you can control how well you take care of yourself along the way. And if you're stuck in a really bad place, then this is where you can start to see, again, like a big transformation happening if you start putting yourself first. And quite paradoxically, that might actually be the key to optimizing your fertility as well. Because once you start putting your own well-being first, like your real well-being, it's like, what do I need right now? Even if it's, dropping out of fertility treatment for a couple of months, once you start putting yourself first, once you start listening to your body, once you start taking your body really, really seriously, that's how you can work with your body to find your way back to balance and an optimal fertility. So how do you start listening to your body and developing that partnership? For me, a resource that really kickstarted that process, and I've mentioned it many times on the podcast because it set into motion such a huge transformation, was the book Wild Feminine by Tammy Lynn Kent. I'll put it in the show notes. So Tammy is a holistic pelvic care provider, and what I learned from her book is how to connect to the womb space. Before I read the book, I had never done that before. I had never actually, and I was doing a lot of meditation work at the time already, but I'd never gone within and felt like, what does it feel like in my womb right now? So when I started doing that exercise, when I started feeling into my pelvic bowl, feeling into what the muscles were doing, I felt like I realized I was always tensing my muscles down there all the time. Can you imagine what that does to your blood flow? Blood flow is so essential to those organs, right? Your reproductive system. And I had developed a habit of just keeping my entire womb space contracted. So yeah, just starting to connect to the part of my body, I realized there was so much going on there that I wasn't even aware of. Now, there's also like an entire energetic component to, the womb space. There's trauma that you store there that may affect your fertility. That's all for a later episode. For today, when it comes to picking yourself up when your fertility journey has gotten you down, developing that connection with your womb space is a crucial step because that's where your vital life source, your power, is located. It's your life energy. And then when you're trying, so just connecting to your womb will give you a lot of information about what you need to feel more vital and to feel more joy in life. What you need to get more creative again, to get out of a rut. And then, of course, for fertility, because it's also the key area for fertility, that's the added benefit. You will also work on your fertility by working on your womb. And you can start, like, one thing I tell my clients is to just take a moment before you get out of bed in the morning or maybe in the shower, tune into your womb and ask how it's doing and what it needs. It's a really simple question. It only takes you 5 minutes max. But it will give you so much powerful information on what you can do for your body to help it feel better. I always say, like, try to read your womb space like you're reading a weather report. So how is your womb space feeling right now? How would you describe it? Maybe you can draw it, or maybe you can use, describe it in sort of images or colors or the weather. And once you get that sense of how it's doing, then you can ask that open question, what do you need? And just hear what answer comes. And you take that intuitive guidance with you into your day. So like, okay, I have a full schedule today, but my womb wants me to laugh. Just feeling into my womb right now. My womb wants to experience some joy and laughter today. So is there a way in which you can create that for yourself? Or maybe you're going into treatment, and you feel into your womb this morning, and your womb in the morning, and your womb tells me, I want to feel safe. So you say, okay, what can I do today, even in treatment, which can be quite a triggering environment again? How can I tell my womb throughout the day that it's safe? And that might be just you when you get down on the table, just really internally telling your body, you're safe, I'm here to protect you. So again, really important nervous system work, and it doesn't require that much. It requires those 5 minutes in the morning. So yeah, I feel like I'm giving you like really important things to work with, and it all feels so trivial. So that would be really the thing to stress is start working with these techniques because they are so transformative, even though they feel so trivial. So I'll just quickly recap them. You can practice living in the moment and noticing glimmers. And I would do that by taking 5 minutes before you go to bed, thinking about the 3 things that brought you joy throughout the day, or even setting a timer on your phone throughout the day and notice if there's anything that brings you joy. If you get stuck in these negative thoughts and beliefs, try and work with those mindset strategies. The questions: is this true? Do I absolutely know this to be true? How does this belief make me feel? And who would I be without this belief? Play with those and see if that brings you a bit of relief. And focus on what you can control. You can't control whether you get pregnant or not, but you can control how well you take care of yourself along the way. And once you start developing that partnership with your body, it will improve your life. The change will be enormous, but it will also really, really, it's also really beneficial for your fertility. Now, one thing I didn't really touch upon in this episode is grief, which can be especially hard on a fertility journey, not just losing a baby. Well, losing a baby is probably one of the hardest things, but it can also be like grief over losing a dream, losing control, um, not being able to have a baby naturally. There can be so much grief. There's a couple of episodes I did about loss. One thing I wanted to mention here is that if you've experienced loss, I want to invite you to join me for a baby loss ceremony on November 1st. I'm doing an online ceremony with women who've all lost a baby, and we'll light a candle for the babies we lost. I will guide us in a shamanic trance journey where we will meet with the baby's souls, communicate with them, leave them in like a really soft and safe place that you can always find back. This is also about sort of re-establishing that connection with the baby you lost. And then we'll also share like a good memory about our pregnancies to also tune into that love that we felt when we were pregnant. Because that is still there. That's the beauty of, having a connection with your baby, and actively looking for that connection is that you can also find that love again. I wanted to end this episode with 3 reviews I got from previous ceremonies that outline how much healing is possible in a ceremony like this. So first up is Rini, which is a lovely lady, 75 years old, who I worked with on a women's festival. And it was actually the first moment in her life that she took time to process her losses. And what she told me afterwards is that every time she now thinks of those souls that we met during the ceremony, a smile spontaneously appears on her face. And that had never happened before. Like all of those decades where she just wasn't processing the loss, and now she can think of those babies with a smile. Second review or testimonials from Lena, who lost a baby at 10 weeks, and she said that the ceremony made her feel safe and surrendered enough to process her loss. And because of her loss, she didn't dare plan her next embryo transfer. It was just too raw. But after the ceremony, she picked up the phone and called her clinic. This is actually my favorite testimonial. I think that really tells you how powerful this work is. And then finally, Agnes, she had suffered several miscarriages when she joined one of my ceremonies. She felt during the ceremony that her womb had become a place of grief and death. And by really feeling through all that stuff during the ceremony, she could let go and turn her womb into a place of creation and life again. And I know she's currently pregnant, and she told me she's so happy that her baby now gets to grow in a loving environment, not in that place of death that it had become. So great testimonials. I love them because they're so much more diverse and so much more, tangible than anything that I could have come up myself. If you feel like, oh, this is something I want to experience, you can register at thatfertilefeeling.com/ceremony. It's an online ceremony. Participation costs €22. There won't be a replay available because this really is a circle. So everyone gets to participate actively and share about their babies in a safe space. That's why I'm not recording. So thatfertilefeeling.com/ceremony is where you can register. I really hope to see you there. And until then, I'm sending you love and strength on your fertility journey. Bye bye.